To continue, I just finished the endocrine function of the hypothalamus and the hypothalamo-pituitary unit or axis, which controls the endocrine functions of the body through their effects. That's the effects of the hypothalamo-pituitary unit on the lower endocrine organs and glands, including the thyroid, the adrenal, and the gonads, the ovaries and testicles. Then I will shift to the non-endocrine functions of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus also not only controls the homeostasis of the body and keeps the balance of the internal environment of the body through its effects on the hormones and on the endocrine organs, but also through its effects on other vital body functions, including the fact that the eating centers located in the hypothalamus also affects eating through the hunger and the satiety centers in the hypothalamus. And also it contains the thirst center, which is responsible for stimulation of drinking and the individual having the desire to drink or having the satisfaction of being full and no need for drinking. So these centers which play a role in drinking and stimulation and inhibition of the desire and urge for drinking, they are located in the hypothalamus. Also the energy metabolism, they are located in the hypothalamus. They are related to the regulation of food intake and energy metabolism and leptin secretion. They are all modulated and located in the hypothalamus. That's why the hypothalamus is related to problems if dysfunctional is related to problems of body weight, including weight gain and obesity, and this is what we call hypothalamic obesity. I will discuss them in dysfunctional hypothalamic syndromes, and also related to body weight loss. So the energy metabolism is inside the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus also is responsible for sexual drive and plays a role in the sexual cycle and the sexual process in human beings. Also, it contains centers for modulation of memory and cognitive function, and also plays a role in emotions. Also, it contains autonomic centers which control the autonomic center and have connection with the autonomic centers in the brainstem. As I mentioned yesterday, the hypothalamus, being the center for the limbic system, is connected with the frontal lobes, the septal nuclei, frontal lobes above and septal nuclei, and with the brainstem reticular formation and the brainstem autonomic centers in the pons and the medulla through the forebrain midline tract. And so the hypothalamus, through its connections with the autonomic centers in the brainstem, it controls the cardiovascular functions and respiratory functions through its effects and connections with the cardioinhibitory and the respiratory centers and the vasomotor centers in the brainstem. So it also controls the autonomic functions, and that's why disorders of heart rate and blood pressure might arise due to dysfunction in the hypothalamus or disordered hypothalamic function. This is how the hypothalamus affects the autonomic nervous system and affects the vital functions of the cardiovascular and respiratory systems, and also affecting the gastrointestinal secretions and the motility. So through these effects of the hypothalamus on the autonomic nervous system, it also plays a role in containing and maintaining the internal milieu of the body. This is the autonomic function as a part of the non-endocrine function of the hypothalamus. Also, it modulates the body fluid balance and the sodium and water and electrolyte balance. Also through its effects on the antidiuretic hormone secreted and then stored inside the posterior pituitary. And Also, it contains center for temperature regulation. That's why what we call the thermostat. The thermostat is in the hypothalamus. That's why dysthermia is part of, or dysregulation and fluctuations of body temperature is part of hypothalamic dysfunction. All of these are non-endocrine functions of the hypothalamus. So as we see, the hypothalamus is an amazing organ, plays controlling most of the vital and metabolic processes. It controls the metabolism, it controls the growth, it controls other vital functions in the body through being an endocrine and non-endocrine organ at the same time, and this is the amazing aspects of the hypothalamus in as an endocrine and a non-endocrine neuroanatomical structure, which plays an important role in the regulation of body homeostasis. This is the functions of the hypothalamus. And then let me speak about the causes of what are the causes of dysfunctional hypothalamus or hypothalamic dysfunction. The causes of hypothalamic dysfunction are any pathological process which damage the hypothalamus. Any pathological process which damage the hypothalamus will cause dysfunctional hypothalamus or hypothalamic dysfunction, or what we call hypothalamic syndrome, which is a group of clinical symptoms and signs resulting from disordered function of the hypothalamus. This is what we call the hypothalamic syndrome. What are the causes of this hypothalamic syndrome? The causes of hypothalamic syndromes, as I mentioned, are different pathological processes. Any pathological process which cause damage. And these include, number one, the most common pathological process is through head trauma. Head trauma is the most common cause of hypothalamic dysfunction. Usually due to traffic accidents, car traffic accidents or other traffic accidents, other road traffic accidents, which will cause traumatic brain injury and will damage the hypothalamus as a part of damage of the brain. Due to direct laceration, contusion, concussion, or edema resulting from traumatic brain injury due to head trauma. So head trauma, number one. Number two, surgery. A brain surgery also can touch the hypothalamus. Irradiation to the brain can involve the hypothalamus. Also, it can be due to malnutrition, and it can be due to eating disorders like bulimia nervosa and anorexia nervosa. Also, it can be due to vascular insults of the brain involving the hypothalamus, inflammatory lesions of the brain involving the hypothalamus, like encephalitis involving the hypothalamic substance being a part of the brain tissue. Any inflammatory process involving the limbic system or the diencephalon will affect the hypothalamus, being a part of the diencephalon and part of the limbic system. So it might be due to an encephalitic or inflammatory process. Or rarely it can be due to a genetic disease or genetic factors affecting the hypothalamus. And we have many genetic syndromes which involve the hypothalamus and cause hypothalamic dysfunction. And I will mention them later on as specific clinical categories of hypothalamic syndromes. The genetic hypothalamic syndromes. This is the causes of hypothalamic dysfunction. Now let me talk about what are the symptoms and signs of hypothalamic dysfunction. Symptoms and signs of hypothalamic dysfunction include lethargy, fatigue, and these are non-specific, as we all know. They can occur with many systemic problems and many diseases of the body. They are rather non-specific, but they are also part of the hypothalamic syndrome. through the effects of the effects of the disease process involving the hypothalamus on the hormonal states, which hormones are affected by the pathological process, because I mentioned that it contains cells which secrete corticotropin, thyrotropin. So it depends on whether the pathological process has involved the hypothalamus